If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. When the government owns it all. Hi, I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. In the United States, we've been blessed with the freedom of choice, which has produced a two-part system: what the government offers and what the free market offers. Increasingly, we are being forced into a governmental system with only one supplier, taking away our choice. The oldest mistake in economics. In economics, this might look attractive. The next time you go through a traffic intersection and there are 3 gas stations on 4 of the corners, you're welcome to observe that it's not a good use of resources to oversupply the market in that way. Yes, lots of resources are used in that supply scenario. But, as I often say in my class at Dallas Baptist University, on the other hand, if there was only one gas station, which we would call a monopoly, or a monopoly if you say it fast. And here's where the fallen nature comes in. If the suppliers were not fallen, this would work fine, but they are. Mexico ran this experiment with their national oil company Pemex, and it produced lower production and higher prices. Chile announced they are nationalizing their lithium mines. In an article titled "The Oldest Mistake in Economics," Mary Anastasio Grady explains it this way, quote, "It's never a good idea to allow career politicians to manage the economy. They're not a financially astute bunch, and their incentives are all wrong. Yet, developing countries rich in natural resources continually repeat this mistake," end quote from Ms. Grady. See, I wish only developing countries made this mistake. We're looking increasingly like that system in the United States. Ms. O'Grady's conclusion is prescient. Quote, "The president of Chile," she says, "is licking his chops at the prospect of a new state company whose patronage, jobs, and budgets will increase his power," end quote. Yep, it's all about power. Powerful governmental bureaucrats start by providing innocent subsidies to an industry. Their subsidies cause the industry to falter, so the governments increase their support. Then, in industries from healthcare to education, even religion, they can end up taking over the entire industry. And eventually, the government owns it all, which lends the name to today's podcast. I guess Lord Acton was right. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I like the Lord Acton book by Himmelfarb, but there are many others. Let's return to our country, the richest nation in the history of the world. We got here by encouraging competition, and we will lose our position as the world's greatest economy if we go down the road to serfdom to which we are currently being led. The rationing mechanism. Now, when a government-granted monopoly occurs, the quality and quantity of supply is decreased. It's explained clearly by Gregory Mankiw in the macroeconomics textbook I use at Dallas Baptist University. He writes, quote, "In response to the shortage, some mechanism for rationing the product will naturally develop. The mechanism could be long lines, or sellers could ration the product according to their own personal biases, selling them only to, listen now, friends, relatives, or members of their own racial or ethnic group. Discrimination according to seller bias is both inefficient and often unfair," he continues. But the mechanism in a free, competitive market is both efficient and impersonal. Free markets ration goods with prices. Okay, listen, goods and services will get distributed. We only have the power to determine how they get distributed. And like all good economics questions, this one has 2 pretty clear answers: by market prices or by fallen governmental bureaucrats. Come with me on a random walk through healthcare and education, and we'll end at religion today. Healthcare. Our neighbors to the north have run this economics experiment for us. The result is contained in a frightening report about Canadian healthcare in the Epoch Times titled "There's Nothing Fair About Canadian Healthcare," and it's written by Susan Martinuk. Quote, "A court ruled that it was lawful for the government to prevent people from paying for their own medical care," end quote. That's just stunning. Okay, some products and services should be illegal. Maybe hard drugs, prostitution, hiring a hitman. But now in Canada, private health care violates the law. Okay, when power corrupts, it leads to absolute power corruption. Let me return to the article again from the Epoch Times. Quote, despite the harm to would-be patients, the Medicare system is a public good that must be protected, even though people die every day while they wait for the medical service they need. End quote. Protected? Look, they are protecting the public good instead of the humans who consume the public good. Yeah, the law seems to apply even though it denies patients the right to pay for private care when their health and well-being are threatened as a result of waiting in a stagnant and overburdened public system. Okay, citing Ms. Martinuk again, quote, Canada is the only nation in the developed world that exclusively relies on a publicly funded system and prevents its citizens from using their own money to pay for necessary medical care. Every other developed country has parallel public and private systems that ensure timely care for its citizens. Notably, these countries do not have wait lists like the ones that are now standard in Canada. Now, most provincial and territorial health ministers in Canada declared this decision a victory for universal health care, and many Canadians viewed the Supreme Court decision in their country as a triumph for regular people because it signifies that Canadian healthcare ostensibly treats all people as equal, and the so-called rich cannot use their money to buy medical treatment and receive faster service. Okay, I made many references to the book Animal Farm in last week's podcast, and it looks like that will continue this week. Canadian healthcare is not the great equalizer that it claims to be. Some people are allowed to access medical care more quickly than others. More equal. Get the Animal Farm citation? The list of entitled people includes anyone covered by federal health insurance, judges, members of the parliament, federal employees, senators, the military, and even federal prisoners have privileged access to health care services, including access to private health care. In other words, the federal lawmakers who uphold the archaic laws that made private care illegal enjoy full access to private health care when they need it. And as most of you know, many rich Canadians take their health care dollars to the United States or other countries to buy immediate access to health care. Education. In my podcast number 74 titled The Wall of Separation Between Education and State, I pointed out that government should allow consumers the choice of a state system or a private system. What's wrong with choice, by the way? Why do these leaders always want to take away freedom from the populace? In serving 30 years as a professor, I've seen the move in power from the regional accrediting bodies in the United States to the U.S. Department of Education. They participate in the funding of universities, so they want to use their power to tell us what to do. Just about every institution of higher learning took the bait by accepting federally subsidized scholarships some 50 years ago. That was the camel's nose in the tent. Now, all universities, public and private, are trying to tiptoe around this huge beast that's sitting in our living rooms, metaphorically. Now, every semester, the requirements get more detailed and more laborious. I have something of a view of where this might end because I've been teaching in Eastern Europe just about every summer since 2014. During my first trip, the institution where I taught was called Lithuania Christian College. But because Eastern Europeans don't know what a Christian college is, they had to rename the place LCC University. Yep, that way of thinking is coming to a theater near you in the United States, and it's not a movie you want to see. Religion. Eric Metaxas is one of the greatest Christian writers of our era. I first read his book called If You Can Keep It after he spoke at Dallas Baptist University some years ago. Then I read his biographies of Martin Luther and Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now, the Bonhoeffer book answered a long-standing question of mine, something like, where was the German church during the Holocaust? Now, he applies that answer to the American church today in his latest book called Letter to the American Church. And the comparison is both accurate and horrifying. He makes the point that the church is standing by while culture is changing around them. They need a good dose of Abraham Kuyper shouting at them, There's not 1 square inch of the world for which God doesn't shout, mine. Church has mostly said that politics is off limits, so it doesn't belong to God. That's dangerous. I challenge the church in much the same way as Metaxas did in my podcast number 35 titled Black Lives Matter. Metaxas and I both are concerned that America will lose what Benjamin Friedman called the market for religion in America in his book titled Religion and the Rise of Capitalism. Now, that competition will be replaced by a one-church position, as happened to the Orthodox Church in Russia during the Soviet communism. Christian worldview provides excellent support for economics. We believe God created a perfect world. Fallen humans have messed it up, and redemption is available to us. Economics starts with a fall. Milton Friedman famously said, "Most economic fallacies grow out of the zero-sum myth." But he was an atheist and I'm a Christian, so my answer is a little different. I would say most economic fallacies grow out of a denial of the fallen nature. I'm Dave Arnott, the Christian Economist. Fear God, tell the truth, earn a profit. See you next time. For more information, please visit us online at davearnott.com. If you have questions or suggestions for future podcasts, please submit them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.